Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy, Minister Edward. We are launching a brand new show. I'm not going to call it a podcast, but launching a brand new show called Let's Chop It Up. Will be available on YouTube and other streaming platforms also. But the main vision of this show will be to reach out to the men of God and kind of chat and wrap about some things, chop it up about some things, so to speak. So, with that being said, we might expand that vision going forward, but we are actually, I'm very excited about this, and due to the overall positive response that I had to my video last week, that we're going to be doing this, and it's a need that people have told me that is needed. It's something that's needed. So with that being said, I'm going to go forward with this, and I got a couple of things really I want to talk about today, really three. The last one was really added today, as we do know, the retail giant Target has been boycotted by Black Americans, spearheaded by the Reverend Jamal Bryant, in the last 4 months, and we have been making significant dents in Target's in their bottom line, but then all of a sudden, some alleged representatives of black people, mainly some of the biggest religious organizations in the United States, took it upon themselves to accept a $300,000 donation to their respective religious organizations. Now there was 4 of them. And it said, so that means it was $75,000 given to these religious organizations, when Black Americans spend upwards to $12 billion, have spent $12 billion or $12 million. It's an astronomical number. I think it was $12 billion. Have spent over $12 billion in Target over the years. Now, they made some promises when during the height of the George Floyd protests, that they have not held up to, and they took away DEI. They took away a lot of initiatives towards that would help minority businesses and everything like that under pressure from the administration. So we stand with Jamal Bryant and all of those others that are still protesting these and calling for transparency from these religious organizations that have taken this money from Target. So we stand with them and we say, hey, look, this is the reason why. This is one of the reasons why we can't come together, because we have people that are so-called looking out for black people, but are not really looking out for black people. They're looking out for themselves under the guise of looking out for black people. So we do stand with Reverend Bryant, and it is my dream one day to get him on this show. But we do stand with him. We stand with all of the others that are the other leaders that are boycotting these different institutions, Dollar General, all of those. Because y'all don't get to play, like they said, y'all don't get to play in our face and expect us to spend our money there. You know, you can't treat us bad and expect us to spend our hard-earned dollars with your institutions. So, with that being said, I just wanted to get that off my chest first of all. The second thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk about the exodus of black men from the church. I wanted to talk about that because me myself have experience being a 60-year-old black man. I have experienced that that particular aspect, alienation, so to speak, with the churches that I have been involved in over the years with leaving the church. So, and coming across this, and I got this from Jamal Bryant, again, inspired me when he was preaching at Fellowship Church in Chicago, when he was talking about the Marvin Sapp, the controversy of a couple of months ago, and he was coming from the guys that these people that were speaking of church really don't go to church and don't really understand church business, because I mean, it is stated in the Bible that we are supposed to take care of the shepherd of that house. Even the house in the Old Testament, when the temple was built, there was meat bought, there was all sort of livestock, grain, everything like that. Anything above the grain offerings and the burnt offerings and all of those offerings that was brought to the church was kept by and put in the storehouse for the use of the priest that was there. The head of that temple was using that. So that's a thing that's been going on for years, and the tithe and the offering are right along with that. So there is those things were back then in the Bible also, but I would want to kind of go over some stuff. I did some research, and it says here that, and according to Pew Research, that 97% of Black Americans believe in God or a higher power, and 59% of Black Americans consider religion very important to them in their lives. A large majority of Black people, 78% of Black Americans identify with a religious institution. 75% identify as Christian. That's a big number. Approximately, now of that 75%, only 32% of Black Americans attend regular church service on a weekly basis or more often, which is higher than your white Americans and Hispanic Americans. While, like I said, a lot of them identify as Christian. But here's the break off here. Anywhere from 65 to 80% of Black men do not attend church on a regular basis, do not attend church. Most of your church is made up of upwards to 70% women. And we may wonder, there's a myriad of reasons for that. Generational shifts. Older Black men are more likely to attend church than younger generations. I can attest to that, because we were made, as when we grow up, when Mary Williams said, when we left the house, on Sunday morning, everybody leaves the house, going to church. So she said that and got us up, and if we didn't go, we got a phone call at about 12 o'clock when church, or 12:30 when church was out, from the Reverend Lucy Jones, who told us, baby, you need to be in church. You need to be in church. And I don't think that urgency is really put down on the younger generations as it was with us. And it might be, due to burnout or whatever the case may be, church burnout or whatever the case may be. But we were made to go to church. The house needed to be, only person that really didn't go to church on a regular basis when we grew up was my dad. He came, but he didn't come every Sunday. Like we had to get up and go up to church all the way up until age 18. And even after that, we still, if we were in the house, we were expected to go to church, even after 18 years old. So, perceived relevance. The next reason why. Some Black men feel like the church is not addressing current needs and concerns, our needs or concerns, particularly regarding social and political issues. This is one of the reasons why we were just talking about the boycott of Target and the religious organizations that were involved in taking that $300,000 from Target. when you really look at it, you know, going back into history, there was always an infiltrator in the movement. There was always infiltrators in the movement, always. They had infiltrators in the civil rights. They had infiltrators in the Nation of Islam with Malcolm X. In the civil rights, in all of the civil rights, they had, in the Black Panthers, they had infiltrators. So there was always somebody that was willing to sell out the cause for money. It was always some Negro that was willing to sell out the cause for money. So, but that also, with people that high up making decisions like that, that breeds resentment with the lower ranks of the people, and it breeds also distrust with those people. So if you can't stand for us, how do we? You're making the decision for yourself. You can't. If you can't stand for us, then why should we attend your church? Why? I mean, yeah, we need to seek God, and I just said 97% of Black Americans believe in God, but there's only 32% of Black Americans that attend church, and that's a serious problem. It's a lot of different aspects, a little different things that goes into this. The next one is perception of the church's message, which I really don't believe in, because believing in God and holiness and being a good person, being a person of God is not an outdated message. However, I do believe sometimes that, you know, a lot of times we feel like it's a lot more gray than black and white, which is not. I mean, you cannot modernize the gospel. You can't. It's got to be. It's the gospel. You cannot modernize the gospel. But it is relevant to our lives. It says that they said people feel like it's not relevant to their lives. Well, if you take the gospel and apply it to your life and some of the things that is taught in the gospel, then you know you're going to be a good person. You're going to be that great person, that great follower of Christ that you should be. Lack of engagement. Here's where the line is right here for me. You have a lot of talented brothers at churches, and Pastor Brian touched on this during his sermon that day, that we are way more than security. There are a lot of brothers in the church that we're a lot more than security, is what he said. And there's a lot of talented brothers that want to do more than stand guard, or watch this or watch that, or be labor when you need it at the church. We also want to teach Sunday school. We want to get up and say a scripture or whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be restricted to the ministers and the elders to do that. There's a lot of people that, worship leaders. We want to do that. We want to be involved in the church in some capacity other than be a security guard, so to speak. So my thing is that, and I can take this back with me back to the AME church where I grew up at. We had church. We had the YPD. We were in the YPD. YPD from 4 years old all the way up to 18. Had fun on retreats. We go to Oklahoma during the summertime. Sunday school conventions. All of these different things, these different activities that were addressed to just young people. It wasn't just men and boys and girls, but it was activity within that we were engaged all the time. So when I turned 18, everything just kind of stopped. It was back then, everything just kind of stopped for us. There was for men, it was just like, for young men, there was nothing that the church did except for coming to church. There was no level of engagement. There was no anything. So you lose people like that. You lose people's interest. But the women had other things going on back then also. It wasn't until the year 2000 when the late Bishop Chappelle came to, I think it was 99 or 2000, when the late Bishop Chappelle came to the 12th Episcopal District there in Arkansas and Oklahoma, that we got a men's ministry. And I was fortunate to be the head of that first men's ministry for Arkansas and Oklahoma. Got to travel around, meet a lot of people, was engaged with that. We had meetings on the district level and on the conference level and on the episcopal level. So I mean on the connectional level. We didn't really have one on the connectional level, I don't think. But there was a lot of engagement there with the brothers. We had big barbecues. We had we had fellowship, all of that stuff. We had a men's choir that sung at the conference every year. But it was great fun. But it kept us engaged, and while we were doing that, we were learning stuff. You know what I'm saying? We were getting what we needed as men of God at that time. Not so much on a spiritual level. We were getting that, but not on an emotional. We were meeting people, all of that good stuff. But there is a definite, I do believe that all of these church organizations on the national level, they need to make a committed effort, not just these offshoot places. The churches need to make a committed effort to engage men. I have yet to see, I have yet to see a men's conference. I mean, and unless somebody tells me different. I've been in Dallas for 5 years. I think I've been to, it wasn't a men's conference, it was a prayer breakfast. But I would like to see a great men's conference being put forward, and I think it would be on a mad scale for someone to put on a men's conference. And I think that would be a great thing that's really needed in the church today, because we need to know, the men need to know that y'all are, that the church, the national church, whether it be Baptist, whether it be Pentecostal, whether it be Kojic, whether it be AME, whatever, Episcopal, whatever, we need to know that y'all are invested with us and along with us and being concerned with the issues that are going on with us as black men. And that leads me right into the next one: trauma and mental health. Some men may be dealing with personal trauma and mental health challenges that prevent them from attending. The reason why church is supposed to be a social hospital. It's supposed to be a social hospital. So we're supposed to engage our brothers and our brothers and our sisters, particularly our men, since that's the deficit that we need to be really focusing on. Reaching out, hey, talking to these brothers, hey man, I'm here for you, you need me, whatever the case may be. But we as men of God and part of the church, we need to be reaching out to touch someone that is in need of that of God in his life, and also letting them know not only is God in your life, I'm here for you also. So I wanted to touch on that, those things right there, and it's really a complex issue, I think, within the black church, about the disenfranchisement of black men, because I do believe there needs to be a particularly marketing campaign. I do believe that. I mean, yeah, church is church, yeah, but there needs to be a marketing campaign within all of our churches on a national level to get men to come back to church like they used to. The need is there, the desire is there, but we have to make it accommodating to these young men to come to church, because they're going to need God at some point. They're going to need God at some point. So if we are Well, if we're going to be the church, if we're going to be have church going forward, we just cannot just continue to constrict ourselves to those four walls. We need to have like fellowship outside of the church, so that people can see us. Hey, where are you from? Blah 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 blah. Oh, they got an active men's ministry. That's attractive to people. That is attractive to people. So, just saying all of that, we need to basically roll up our sleeves and get the church back where it needs to be. Okay, that's number two. And that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about. Is, like I said, I established this show for the men, for men's ministry, and I love the outreach. I love to just talk to people a lot. My wife tells me I don't meet a stranger, but I like to connect with people, talk to people. So the third thing I wanted to talk about is I touched on something last week, and I like to do this. I'm going to incorporate this in with every show. I talked about the man in Mark chapter 5, starting at verse 1, where he was possessed by a demon. And what really stood out to me in this whole thing here is that he had this thing. He was cutting himself. He was hurting himself. The demon had tormented his soul so much that he was actually doing harm to himself with what he was doing. He was cutting himself with rocks, with sharp rocks and things of that nature, to absolutely just hurt himself. But when God came into his life, when Jesus came into his life, he didn't talk to the man. He talked to the demons. And he told them, and they asked him to put the demons asked him to don't destroy them, send them to the pigs. Well, when he sent them to the pigs, they went and destroyed themselves anyway by jumping into the ocean, the whole herd of pigs. So the man, once he was free, he said, what can I do? What can I do? And he told them to go back and witness. He wanted them to go. Told him to go back to his hometown and witness. Now his hometown was different from where Jesus was going. Jesus did not want him to go with him. Jesus wanted him to go to his hometown, because everybody around there had already seen the miracles of Jesus. He wanted him to go back to his hometown and go to a different town that he was at to deliver the good news of the gospel. And that is a thing that I've been chewing on for the last about week or so. I preached that sermon back in 2009, if I may, and it was entitled "I'm Free," about the man. Now, I did not come from the point of Jesus. I came from the point of the man, where the man was set free, and he went and talked and witnessed about Jesus, how Jesus set him free from the demons. Now, I'm going to say this. I think that all of us, particularly us men, are dealing with stuff that is tormenting our lives. Things that are just we've been toting with us all of our lives. Whether it be daddy issues, identity issues, whatever, guilt, shame, whatever, it torments us, and a lot of us don't talk about it. But there is relief in Jesus Christ. There is deliverance in Jesus Christ. All we have to do is get out and get it. And I'm preaching to myself right now also. All I have to do is get out and get it. And that's what I'm doing right now, because I am following something that God put on my heart last week, to be more of that minister that I was, whether it be at church or outside of church. You have a platform now on these different streaming platforms where you can present a word to anybody. So that is what I'm doing at this point. So my whole thing is that, and that's the reason why, that is the vision of this show. To, if you are blessed by this show, then bless somebody else. Reach one, teach one. If you are reached by this show, you teach somebody else. So I just want to say that. And if you are out there and this show touched your heart, just bless someone else with this. Bless somebody else with this. And I'm going to go ahead and close out right now. I've been on here for about 26 minutes. I just want to make sure that I am starting to walk the walk that I was supposed to walk. I started this walk. I got called to preach back in 90-something, 94, and I was like, who, me? I was still out there. I was still running the street, all of that stuff, clubbing, whatever the case may be. I was still out there. But my granddaddy, and it was in the form of my granddaddy, he said, boy, he used to always call me boy. He never called me by my name. He said, boy, you look like you ready to preach. You go, and it didn't sound right. It sounded right, but it wasn't him talking. Boy, you need to be preaching. And then he said, boy, you need to be preaching. Not me, granddaddy. But that call stayed with me for almost 9-10 years. And God put me in a position to whereas I couldn't do nothing but heed that call. Unfortunately, got involved with a bad organization, and kind of made me a little bit gun shy about doing this. But now, with the advent of Facebook, with the advent of all these streaming services, I don't have to be in a pulpit to speak a word. So you don't have to be in a pulpit to speak a word. So just want to close this out by saying this. We all struggle. We all fall short. We all are not perfect. We all are not, and I'm preaching to myself right now too. We all are not perfect. We all have things that we need to work on. But just remember that God is always going to forgive you, and the thing is, though, the most important thing is you have to forgive yourself. And I'm preaching to myself right now when I say that. I'm preaching to myself. Got to forgive myself for all the stuff that I have done throughout my life, all the bad decisions that I've made, all of the good decisions that I made all the bad decisions I made under good pretense, all the bad actions. It's not so much the sins, it's the actions that you have made, the decisions that you've made, things that have happened in your life that you have to get over. And I'm preaching to myself because I'm carrying stuff. I shared the story of regret last week, and that's what I'm dealing with now. After dealing with a couple of other issues, now I'm dealing with the regret. You have to learn how to forgive yourself, and I have to learn how to forgive myself. So this is your minister. This is your Minister Edward. Let's chop it up. Let's keep chopping it up. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on YouTube. The Let's Chop is a channel